Hello everyone, how's it going? My name is Jeremy and welcome to day one in my garage as well as part one of my Ducati Monster build series. In front of me here I have my 2008 Ducati Monster S2R 1000 and I've owned this bike for a few years now. Unfortunately, I have not given it the love or due diligence it's deserved over my ownership with it, but now that I've ordered a number of parts for the bike and this build project, I'm ready to get that started. So to start this first video off, I'm going to show you guys pretty much the bike in as much detail as I can before I start tearing it down and assessing whether or not I want to use the parts again for the rebuild of the bike or if I need to be ordering new parts. So let's start with taking a look at this motorcycle. Alright guys, to start this video off, I'm going to give you a quick walk around of the bike as well as talk about some points on the bike that I find to be pretty interesting. Maybe talk about some early concepts or things I'm thinking about with the bike. Ideas I might have, modifications that I or a previous owner have already done. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the engine. This bike uses a DS1000 known as a dual spark. As you can see, we have spark plugs on this side as well as the other side here. And what I find really interesting about the spark plugs on this side are that they actually run through the timing belt here on both cylinders. Speaking of seeing the timing belts and being able to see them, something I really like about this bike and this engine is just how naked the bike is. With everything being this open and no plastics covering it, not only is the bike able to stay cool, for any of you guys have ridden Ducati bikes, you will know that a lot of them can get very hot very fast, but it's also able to show all of its mechanical workings. This bike also uses a dry clutch, which I don't know if you can see behind this piece of plastic that the previous owner cut out here, is able to be seen and will be spinning, as well as the timing belts will be able to be seen when the bike is running. And I find that to be something very cool about this bike. Some people are a fan of being able to see things like this, and some people are a fan of plastics. With this build, I'm going to be keeping it as open as possible. I know there is a cover that can be sold down here, like a lower engine cover. However, I don't think I'll be using that simply because I'll want to be able to see the exhaust. I want to be able to hear everything short of the dry clutch. Speaking about the dry clutch for anyone who has heard one of these before is either something that you love or you hate. It has a very distinct noise, and some people will describe it as heavenly as the jingle bells on Santa's sleigh, while other people will look at you and ask you if your bike is broken or if there's something wrong with it when you pull up at a stoplight. When I start up the bike, I'll be sure to come on down over here to this section so you guys can get a good idea of the sound. One of the next things I want to talk about is the rear end on this Ducati. As you can tell, this has a single-sided swing arm, which makes for a very nice opening to be able to see this 5-spoke rear wheel here, as well as a really nice gap, short of the rear passenger peg and tail end delete, in which the license plate and rear brake light have been removed or brought up, in this case, really far up rather than sticking all the way down in the back like many stock bikes come with. Here's a quick look at the other side of that swing arm, but I'd like to direct our attention now up here to the front of the bike. Now, I am a very big fan of the gauge cluster on this motorcycle, as well as the gauge cluster in many early Monster year motorcycles. It's a very sleek and simple design with the tack on one side, the speedometer on the other, and I'll even give it a quick needle turn here for you. As you guys can see, I have about 21,500 miles on it, so it is due for its third Desmo service, which I will have done or will be doing myself in this build series. Moving on to that, let's talk about the handlebars here for a minute. As you can see, this is a pretty straight handlebar, but there is one caveat to it that I have noticed with this and some other Monsters, and don't know if you can see here. There are some paint squiggles, which looks like someone attempted to correct with a paint correction pen, but it's much more noticeable on this side here with the cuts, clear cuts in the tank. And unfortunately, the tank is plastic, it is not metal, so what tends to happen is, for whatever reason, the screws that would normally stop the handlebars from turning sometimes are not adjusted all the way well, so you will actually make contact before you hit full lock on the handlebars. Now, that is adjustable. However, I don't know if I'll be keeping these handlebars or trying to switch to maybe clip-ons or even a riser set. But the last thing I want to talk about on the front end is this clutch Brembo master cylinder. For any of you who have ridden a bike that uses a clutch cylinder for its clutch engagement and disengagement rather than a traditional cable pull style, I've noticed, at least in my riding, that the clutch seems to be very on or off with engagement. When I pull in the clutch, it either tends to disconnect and disengage quickly, or it tends to reconnect and re-engage quickly. Now, I do plan on getting a new clutch and possibly a slipper clutch for this bike, so we'll see how maybe that affects the riding once that's installed. Alright guys, now that I've given you a quick overview of the bike, I'm going to go wheeler on outside so you guys can hear the obnoxiously loud straight piped L-twin engine here, as well as the dry clutch, and even see the moving timing belts, and I think I'll try to peel back the clutch here for you as well. So let's stick around outside. Alrighty, so here is the bike outside, and I'll start her up here in just a second. Unfortunately, I will have to make this pretty fast. We have some rain and wind today, but without any further ado, let's get this bike all up and started. Do one last look around here, and just as a quick warning for anybody with headphones on, now is the time to turn this down. I'll give you a moment here. This exhaust is very loud, straight piped as it is. Alrighty. And I'm going to turn that off so I don't piss off any of my neighbors. It is very, very loud. But let's bring her on back inside. Alright, with that quick overview and startup out of the way, I'd like to talk about what my plans are with this bike and with the build series in general. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be taking this bike down pretty much to its bare bone components, and so with that is probably going to come some hiccups, some information that I might not know and will have to source and find out, as well as just issues with probably ordering parts, as well as machine work that I plan on getting done for this bike. I hope to have this bike done by the end of the season. However, it is probably more likely that it'll be done probably around next spring. Considering where I live, riding season only extends to about October and November in a year. So if I'm not able to get everything done by that point, short of starting up the bike, riding will probably not be an option. Well, all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the walk around and startup of my Ducati Monster here. If you guys liked the video, feel free to leave a like or subscribe if you'd like to stay updated on a weekly progress of this build. I hope to be releasing a video every Sunday, being that there is work that is able to be done. If you guys would like to leave a comment in the comment section below, please feel free to let me know what you would like to maybe see done with this bike. If you guys have any questions about what I might be doing, or if you just like to discuss or let me know how you think the videos are, please do. In my next video, I'm going to be starting the teardown of this bike and assessing what parts are usable or I'd like to use again, and what parts I'll probably need to get ordered. So I'll see you guys then.